always wonder from a coach's perspective whether or not you feel that that it's a good thing to be studying tape and studying your opponent's strengths, or if they should be focusing just more on their own.
Subjectively,
yeah,
right? So it's objective. So if somebody's very good at spider guard, right? Let's say you're facing Michael Zenga, and you know that if you win your first two, Michael Zenga's in your semi, right? You're like, okay, well, man, I'm going to work some spider guard defenses. I'm not going to overcommit to myself. I'm not going to make this a how to beat Michael Zenga, but I'm going to be using so that my brain is clicking in on things, improvising things as he's putting hooks, as he's trying to pull me over top of him, as he's trying to get underneath me, as he's like going from lasso to where are the holes, and I'm got to build that into my reactionary stuff, as opposed to, hey, you're going to go against this leg lock guy. And that's when you get into the no-gi systems and stuff like that. You go, well, I have to really plan on not getting caught in these positions, identify how to escape these things. That's different. You're going to have to know how that system works in order to find where there's a hole in the system and a slip or skip.
Welcome back to the BJJ Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ford. My guest today is a third-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a former professional MMA fighter. He's also a respected MMA and Jiu-Jitsu coach, formerly teaching out of American Top Team and now teaching out of his own school, Black Label Martial Arts Academy in Charleston, South Carolina. He has a huge following online, both through his Instagram and his YouTube channels, where he shares daily tips on techniques and training. And lately, he's been traveling around the world, sharing his knowledge with high-level fighters and coaches. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be joined today for the 5th time on the show by Professor Malachy Friedman. How are you, Malachy?
Very good, thank you. Like I was saying before, I won a Saturday Night Live jacket, the 5 Timers Club, and I want a song.
I got to talk to Michael and Bernardo. We have to get you a jacket made for sure. We have to have jackets made in general for repeat guests. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Something special for, at
awesome.
the very least, a patch for your gi or something.
Yes, 100%.
Malachy, it's been a little while since we've talked, man. What have you been up to in the last year or so?
Man, so I created the Heisengard 2. I'm really proud of that. That's of course with Fanatics. Then I made Low Hanging Fruit, and that I'm super proud of too, because it's a lot of chains together, like of jiu-jitsu chains that I feel like was the most complete. Like, this is the best answer next. Like, I really put a lot of time into that. So that's Low Hanging Fruit, Closed Guard. That's with you guys as well. But beyond that, I've been working a lot on my MMA. Like, I've been working and transitioning, because the gi is fun. The gi is also evolving too. Like, so it's always evolving. There's always new stuff. My body's like, right now I have a torn pec, a torn groin, but on top of all the other shit you guys know about, which is like 3 spine surgeries, right? I don't even count my knee surgeries anymore. But like, so being in there and repping this stuff and being able to teach the collar sleeve series and double sleeve series and some things that guys who do very well, like Sebastian Serpa, I think just did something with you guys, and he's incredible. And just seeing the evolution and seeing the different things, like I can still teach very, very good. Am I going to be in the corner of one of the highest level guys? I just don't see that for myself with BJJ, but I definitely see that with myself with MMA, because I understand the cage. I understand the body mechanics. I understand things at a higher level, but I'm also thinking more as a top position jiu-jitsu fighter, right? Not looking for whereas in no-gi jiu-jitsu, it's really become, go to your back. Oh, you see a choke, die for it. It's a lot of scramble. Like it was in the beginning too. But it's a lot of scrambles, you know what I mean? And it's I think we can say that one of the only guys that I think is like old school, and this doesn't even seem right to say is Gordon Ryan, right? Like, so Gordon Ryan's game, even though it has a whole bunch of new school stuff, it's that suffocate pressure, that suffocate pass, that suffocate mount, that suffocate back, and that finish, right? So it's like, so you get somebody like that, and you go, well, that's the old school jiu-jitsu. I can teach that jiu-jitsu, but some of the newer, like, do I want to invest in 10,000 hours of leg entries and leg locks when I'm also teaching gi jiu-jitsu to a certain level, and I'm also teaching MMA? So putting my eggs in all that baskets, just, I don't have the payoff. I don't have the amount of time a human being can possibly have. So I still teach gi jiu-jitsu very well, I think. And definitely for beginners, I'm like right along knowing what they need, you know. Uh, and then if we're talking about advanced players, I can give them things that they don't know that they needed. Like, that's one of my favorite things, is the small details, and showing them like, hey, this is the mechanics that you're missing on this one detail. This is efficiency is going to go from 85 to 95, so something like that. But being so involved in MMA from the beginning, then I was like, I was coaching, and I was just exhausted, right? Of number one, traveling, number two, dealing with other coaches in that space, because everybody wants to be around whoever is popping. It's kind of like, especially where I was, it wasn't the most fantastic setting. Uh, and so, like, you're trying to work with this one guy, then now all of a sudden they see that guy's doing well, so other people are trying to attach to him, and then that one person is either the strongest person on earth one day, and then the next day they're the biggest baby on earth. So it's like a huge prima donna position, if that makes sense. Um, and I was like, okay, well, when I open my gym, I'm not doing fighters. I open my gym, fighters come to me anyways. It's something that I'm good at, and I really liked it. So I kept it kind of, but where I am in Charleston, South Carolina, I've had several very good fighters that all seem to decide that they're going to fight, and then they decide that they're going to get married, and then they have kids, and I don't see them again. And so it's like, that's like the place to retire. So almost every time I get a good fighter in, I'm thinking, shit, how long is this guy? Like, do you have a girl? Like, the first questions I ask, do you have a girlfriend or wife? No. Do you have kids? No. I was like, okay, keep it that way and we can train, you know?
For sure. It's
I,
very, yeah.
I'm not because it's the quickest thing. It's the quickest thing to quit, especially if I get a guy that's already got 4 or 5 fights. I know, okay, he's serious. He hasn't. It's not like he did one fight, or it's not like he's like a beginner, but has a lot of potential. He's got fights. Um, but in Charleston, it just seemed one after the other was, like, got an injury, and then the injuries that. So a lot of people don't understand the injuries to somebody whose life is this. They're going to work past it. They're going to find a way around it, right? The injuries that happen to guys who's probably smarter for their body, and their over time long health. These guys are going to be like, man, I hurt my neck. It was really, really bad. I couldn't work like I wanted to work. I got to be more careful, and I got to stop. And I'm thinking, shit, bro. I, how are you able to tell your body to stop? Like, how are you able to tell your mind, like, hey, we're not going to do this shit anymore, especially after all the hours put in and how much you enjoy it. So I found a way around it, coaching, you know. Um, but yeah, so I'm focusing a lot more on MMA. I feel like I have a lot of things that people don't have, like I'm able to take a look at the Dagestani stuff. I'm able to take a look at the American wrestling stuff, and I'm able to take a look at stuff that we've done previously from since I was fighting since 2001, right? And kind of combine these things and see where jiu-jitsu is at on a MMA level, UFC level, and seeing where grappling is and what's most important, and where I can understand the mechanical details to things. So you'll see on my Instagram a lot more now. I'm doing like little breakdowns of MMA stuff. Like, I just dropped one today with Hamzat. I think I did.
I've been noticing that trend in your content, and you and I have talked off air about it a little bit too, about your kind of your return to your roots of your MMA knowledge. In fact, man, I would love to pick your brain on just coaching in general, because you've coached at a really high level for a long time now. And there's a lot of people listening out there that aspire to be
Yeah.
coaches some days and someday and have their own schools. So let me ask you a few questions about coaching. How would you say that you tailor your coaching approach to different athletes at different stages? Because obviously you're going to have guys coming to you that are on the come up, and you might have guys that are already kind of, like you said earlier, they've had 5 professional fights or so. So they're not quite as introductory. How do you tailor your approach to people that are at different stages in their career?
This is always the hardest thing, is to take somebody from nothing, right? And then take somebody from where they're at. And sometimes from somebody from nothing is easier than somebody from 5 fights. It just depends on the learning habits. I mean, if they have 5 fights, they've built a pattern of who they are, right? And it's very hard to tell that person who they are is like, hey, this is not a winning fighter at the highest level. Like you're a winning fighter at local level. You're not a winning fighter at the highest level. These are the reasons why. And then you go to the beginner, and that's where I think, like, so I've been able to travel to Sweden and work with some really amazing coaches and work with some really amazing talented fighters that are, like, Sweden is it's a refugee state. So there's a lot of people from like Chechnya, and there's a lot of people from different areas that war torn countries, right? So, and they have a big background already. So you get a lot of those athletes that are in there that are either in the UFC or headed to the UFC. And you get to work your stuff with them. You get to say like, hey, I have these, because I'm always adapting and making variations of things because of the way body mechanics work, right? So I look at body mechanics and I go, okay, well, I'm gonna break this down. And I see a guy who's very, very good, and I can add the small details to be like, hey, this is a stronger variation to what you're doing because this is rooted in body mechanics and kinetics. You're getting certain guys because you're so good. But when you get up to the highest level and that guy's hips feel like 1,000 pounds when you're trying to move it, we're going to need that extra mechanical detail, right? Somebody who's very interesting to watch, of course, everybody watches him, but it's very interesting to watch as a coach is Hamzat Chimaev, because he's doing a lot of things that looks like are he's doing very smart grappling, right? He's an insanely talented grappler, but the amount of tendon and torque has been in him from days and days and like years and years and years and years and years of training, right? Like when you see the guy who just open, like, or you feel it sometimes. I'm sure you've rolled with some of the best in the world, right? You feel the tendon strength and their core strength, and it just feels different. But also Hamzat sometimes does things that go against the traditional body mechanics or the functional way of doing something, right? Like he does a lot of lifts sometimes. And if you go to like a wrestling coach, you would be like, this is not a good lift. He's pulling through his back, and it's like, it's not that it's not a beautiful slam and it's not anything else. He just may be that tendon body strong, but he also does a lot of over energy, right? Like if you look at guys like Islam and you look at guys like Khabib, they make the other fighter get they of course leg ride, which is one of the biggest things is, fighters don't do this and they don't practice it enough of how to keep somebody down. And once you keep them down, how to free your hands to punch, right? And all that comes from is not having to hold them down with 2 hands, right? It's even better if you don't have to hold them down with any hands, if you can just do it completely with your legs. But they would put their weight and drive into people, right? And smash and try to look for the punches. Whereas Hamzat looks like he's racing to the next position. And generally, that's an issue. At a high level, that's an issue. Generally, you see it in like, so the people that play jiu-jitsu here, you see it 1,000 times. The guy goes for a knee slide and knee slides high. He has no base, and he slides through something, and it's just he's not even waiting for his opponent to do something. He's already moving to the back before the back is even there. You know what I mean? He's forcing these things. And Hamzat's kind of like that outlier where he's forced a lot of things, but it's all worked for him. And that's the craziest thing. And that's the thing, like when I'm breaking things down, because I'm looking at it as a leverage and from a jiu-jitsu mindset, from a grappling mindset of, okay, where are the levers here? Where is the strength? How do I make this guy feel my weight? And how do I do things the most efficient? Right. You see him, he does things very efficient. He does things that have mechanical base behind them. His leg rides are great. His takedowns are very, very good. But then when somebody's scrambling, he almost scrambles with them in a way of controlling. Like, so somebody's trying to get up and he's like yanking them back down. He's like, it's almost like he's the big brother. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. Both kids know the same, but one is just built different. And I guess we'll see. I disagreed with my buddy Joachim Ingberg when we were talking about this. He's the guy in Sweden. He has a good team out there. And I said, I think Hamzat's not going to beat DDP. You know, I think 5 rounds is too much for him. I think we saw with Kamaru and Gilbert that these guys are. Then now you kind of see with Whitaker that Whitaker's able to be taken down. Whitaker's able to be given up a lot of bad situations. Like that knee, I'm going to look at that really, really closely. And I can tell you that it was done very well. The knee to the solar plexus where he took the back. René de Ritter did that. But it's not like Whitaker was grappling well there either. It's not like he was matching Denier Ritter. Let me think of his name. Renier de Ritter. There we go.
There you go.
RDR.
It's much easier.
Yeah. And so it's just a different human being. And I'm thinking, well, man, this guy's too big. This guy's gonna do some sloppy shit. It's gonna hit him pretty hard. It may go down once or twice, but I don't see him finishing. And then I watched every single Hamzat fight. I go, shit. He's going to win this fight too.
Dude, Hamzat's an animal, bro. He is a monster of a fighter.
So, I mean, that's what I looked at. I'm like, shit. Cause I hate being that hater, right? We all have it in us a little bit where we're looking for the guy who's unbelievable to stumble. Now, I don't want him to stumble getting knocked out. That's sad. I hated that Islam has a loss on his record with a knockout. That sucks because it's the game. It's the game you play. But you kind of want to see somebody who at their very best is challenged. And a lot of times you don't find that in grappling, right? So in striking, you go, okay, well, Joanna Jędrzejczyk is going to destroy Rose Namajunas, right? I mean, why is Rose even fighting for the title? It's the only person they have going for the title, and you got Joanna, who's at legendary GOAT status. You know what I mean? And then she knocks her out. And then they fight again and she knocks her out again. Then she fights Zhang Weili, who's a monster, and beats her. I think she beat her twice. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, that's not supposed to happen. This is how good they're striking, how good Joanna is at striking. But when you go to the grappling thing, we're not going to see, I don't think, DDP beat him in grappling. We're not going to see him turn him over and ground and pound. It would be insane, but it would be the most interesting thing I could ever watch, right? Like, that's the most interesting I could see, is that another grappler going with Hamzat and giving him the same amount of trouble. You know what I mean? So, at least from a study standpoint.
Out of curiosity, I know you're spending a lot of time in Sweden. You're working both with jiu-jitsu and MMA guys. What are some of the training ideology differences you see between the U.S. and a place like Sweden? Is there anything like culturally, do they train differently, or do they approach their training differently in any way?
So I'll say some of the coaches approach it in a different way of intelligent and intellect. Sweden and places around there are very intellectually driven. So the coaches are intellectually driven. It's not to say that in America that's not the same, right? Like, there's some guys that I thought were amazing coaches. I know that this guy can't ever coach again, but I thought James Krause was one of the most interesting coaches to watch in America before he bet on baseball. But I mean, like when I watched his stuff, and I even went out there and flew out there to learn from him. I was like, well, I'll bring a fighter with me, but I really want to, pick his mind and watch how he runs classes and watch how he breaks down certain things to certain people. And that's always been something that I do. I go to Extreme Couture and I work with, Dennis Davis and the guys there, and I watch their coaching, and then I'll go to. I recently visited Chris Lieben at the training center in San Diego. Like I'm constantly looking at coaching and how coaches coach, right? And in America, at least for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's a lot of like live rolling. Well, let's just say live rolling, like for the best guys. And then you'll notice that sometimes they'll do like positional rolling, right? And I think that that's fantastic. And there's a lot of, and we were talking about, well, how do you teach beginners and how do you teach advanced people, right? So if I teach a beginner, I think the ecological approach works. Although I cannot say that I'm an ecological coach. I can say that because the way that I was brought up, the way that my brain works, it works by knowing a technique and then understanding the things around it and trying to make that technique cleaner and feel better, right? But if nobody knows what clean or better feels like, then the ecological approach comes into play. And my buddy in Sweden, which I get help from him, I'm like, hey, give me some breakdowns of some of the stuff that you're doing, because he'll say, okay, guys, we're gonna jab, but the guy who can jab can only move forward and backwards, right? And then the guy that's going forward, he can throw three punches, but has to go for a takedown or has to push it to the wall for a takedown. And that's the ecological approach to making fighters that kind of know what they do, but forcing them into situations. But sometimes I worry when you do that, when you force somebody into a situation, you don't allow for not ingenuity. It's not the word I'm looking for. It's going to be where you make something up, where you're able to adapt on the fly, right? Like you have to have, say it?
To improvise.
Improvise. Thank you. I'm terrible at words. I'm getting close to words. I get the I of the word, right?
As long as you have the base, as long as the first few letters is all you need.
Yeah. You give me the I. I'm like, I know it's an I word. Let's go. Improvise, because that comes with so many times of training. And I've tried to figure out how to shorten the learning curve of that. So I'll have my fighters who know what they're doing strike, like go for the takedown. And I say, just break, punch from here. Like, I don't know how many times, like we go, like I say, listen, man, sometimes you just have to improvise and you have to make up your own choice at this exact moment. I said, the technique's not going to be there because it's not the same that you felt before. Right. And that's where kind of the ecological thing would go before, like, oh, well, my hips are used to this. But I think just putting somebody into a position of where something changes and then saying, do something now, right? So it's an ecological approach, but to a live scramble where they can choose anything they want. So I say, like, okay, guys, you're going to take the person down. The person's going to stand up, right? It's trying to get up. You can take him back down. You can submit him, or you can start punching, right? And so that option is very real, because once you take somebody down, somebody's going to want to get back up. So once you take somebody down, you have these choices of like, well, no, I need to keep him down because it was so hard to take him down in the first place. Two, I'm just not going to touch him. I'm just going to stand over him and just start laying in punches. I think that's a lot of people don't realize, is that that's where I try to teach people to move ahead of their opponent. So when there's a lot of times, like when we're on the turtle, like let's say you're in a turtle position and you're controlling them, and let's say you have a spiral ride, so you're controlling a hip, maybe you're controlling an arm, and you feel them start to fight up. Is it worth holding on to that opponent, right? Grasping that opponent, holding that opponent down and trying to control him, even though he may get back up, right? The likelihood of him getting up because he's doing things correctly is very high. Why not be where he's going to be first, right? So as he's coming to stand up, we're standing up before that. We're going to let go. We're not going to like, and you know when your grips are breaking. So you know when you have the wrist and the wrist is being popped out, and you know when you feel their hips start to move away from you, you're like, I'm losing this position. And a lot of times the fighters or even the coaches are saying, hey, keep him down, hold him, grab him, keep him down, right? But that's a losing battle. And you're also gassing yourself out there. I want my fighters to let go. If not let go, push them to their hand, push them to put a different amount of pressure. So rather than pulling them backwards, push them forward so their hands are on the mat, and then get ahead of them, whether that means into a headlock position, whether that means into a striking position, wherever that means. That's your improvisation. Is I want you guys to improvise in these moments so that the likelihood of us getting a finish is higher than before, because finishes happen, of course, through a lot of things, but they usually happen in that in between space of technique. Like that one punch you didn't see, that one technique, especially when you're at a high level. So I want to get my guys prepared to transition into something where they're ahead. Right. So that's why I do the same thing for jujitsu, and I do the same thing for everything. It's like, hey, I don't want this to be 50-50. 50-50 is not good, right? 50-50 is anybody's game. And there's not a lot of finishes from 50-50, right? Not 50-50, the leg lock stuff.
Yeah, of course.
50-50, my offense and their defense, right? If I'm at 60-40, I want to keep it 60-40. If I lose it back to 50-50, I have to figure out what puts me back at 60-40, right? And then 70-30 is even better. That's where we would like to be when we go up into those higher ranks of, hey, I have 70% offense and control. I feel really good here. I can relax, and I can start to look for things that they're going to make mistakes on. When it starts going to 50-50 and you can't stop it from going to 50-50, you have to make it 60-40 by hopping ahead of them to where the next position. So if you're on your knees and you start standing up, and I'm standing up right before you, and you stand up, my punches are ready. I'm rooted. I'm ready to do things. And you're not, because you're still in the moment of getting your base and standing up. Now I'm at 60-40 again, meaning that I can start to drive my punches as you're standing up and blocking. And then I'm back on the hips in a deep double or a deep single. And I'm back to 60-40 or 70-30 once I get the takedown again. It's like, don't be the guy who holds on to every single thing. Don't be the guy that holds on to the guillotine that's not going to work. Right. That's that. If beginners can understand that method, it's like, hey, you're holding onto a guillotine too long. Can you use the guillotine for something else? Can you use that guillotine control to lift and butterfly sweep? Can you slide your hips out and end up in a front headlock? Can you pummel an underhook and end up in a dogfight situation or something? Can you roll them over? What can you do from a bad guillotine rather than trying to make that guillotine work that's not going to work? Right. So that's where I've always looked at jiu-jitsu, and that's where low-hanging fruit does really well. And it puts you constantly at 70-30, 80-20 the entire time. Right. So if you guys beginners, advanced, I guarantee you it'll change your closed guard. I'm putting people at 70-30, and I want people to stay in 70-30. And when we lose that opportunity, I need you to stay at least 60-40. Right. So that's that constant coaching method. And so when I'm coaching beginners, it changes a tiny bit because the ecological approach is better. And they start to understand what staying ahead of their opponent means. It means over under is not fantastic. Double under's great. You're at 80, you're at 80-20, right? Having a leg puts you back at, I think, 70-30, because of course legs are hard. It's not like it's the easiest thing to finish. And also can be tiresome to try to finish a leg on a leg. Right. But we're constantly flowing between being in these head positions. And I don't think a lot of coaches do that. They don't look. So something that I feel like I bring to the table is that I look at failure as not failure, as momentum to a new place. And I really like breaking down. And that's where the MMA stuff is coming from for me, right? So maybe you guys will get an MMA instructional. And I guarantee if I put out an MMA instructional, I've talked to you before about this, is that there's one thing that why I don't put out so many platform releases with people, and I'll sometimes I'll just put it out on my site, on my private site of just stuff that I'm doing, because I want it to be completely a variation that is not out there, right? Or something that's not well explained. If I show you guys the crucifix, I'll show you guys. I may send a crucifix variation, but I'm not going to make an entire video about the crucifix, because Barrett Yoshida should, number one. He just has the assassin choke stuff out. I haven't taken a look at it yet, but he's the crucifix guy. Then you have a couple other guys, but then you have Gordon Ryan. It's not like you're going to get bad content from these guys, right? And so what am I going to do? I'm going to make an entire crucifix thing for a platform, and because I have two variations that I like a lot. I feel like that's kind of a way. So if you get an MMA instructional from me, you're going to get my variations and something that I really believe in that is different, right? Because otherwise it's just my name, and my name selling it does well for my other site. Just my I basically film my classes, or I film like mini instructionals and put them on my site. And because they're not large enough to create I believe a platform release, you know. So when I'm doing the MMA stuff and stuff like that, I think about, okay, if I have my opponent's hip, if my opponent's on the knee and I can't get a leg ride, I know my opponent's only direction is forward. Nobody runs backwards. I mean, it would be an interesting move if somebody all of a sudden was on the cage and they just started like side, like robot walking backwards. They're going to go forwards. So be there. If you feel like this hip control is not working, be there and ready to charge yourself up into a loaded hook against the cage, because they're going to stand up. Okay, maybe you think that they're going to block their hands, so a loaded hook to the body, then the head, and then you can go back to legs and try to make that work again if that's your game to stay on bottom, right? To keep, it's not to stay on bottom, to keep them on the ground. You usually want to be on top in MMA. I would say it's, unless you're Fabricio Verdum, don't go to your back. It's not like, even Damian Maia didn't want to go to his back. I think Damian Maia is your coach, isn't he?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's a guy who would shoot the half guard to end up on top, right? Because he knows that his jiu-jitsu is so strong. Once he's on top of you, it's going to feel like you're done. But I really believe in that 60-40 position and making things work out of that.
Malachy, let me ask you this. Obviously, aside from technical things, when you're coaching at a high level, you've also got, there's a lot that you teach an athlete or work with an athlete on that really surpasses just physical techniques and things like that. Like nurturing emotional intelligence is a big one. And learning how to teaching people not to get freaked out by the bright lights and the crowd and the cameras and staying calm. Tell us a little bit about that. What kind of things do you like to advise athletes to kind of keep themselves focused and in control and calm as they get to bigger and bigger stages of either grappling or MMA?
I think that the biggest, like, so UFC, the biggest show that you're at is sometimes easier than the smaller shows that you're at. Right.
Interesting.
I fought in some place called Wenatchee, Washington, which is not on a map. No weigh-ins, no nothing. And I fought in other, and people are so close to the cage, they're like talking to you. They're like, "Oh man, get up, bro." You're like, "Okay,
thanks, coach." Yeah,
it's not even coach. This is this is the guy.
Some dude with a beer. Yeah,
yeah, and it's like, and with bigger shows, as they get bigger, you don't see the crowd as much because of the lighting.
Sure.
So that takes a lot of things. And I say, like, hey man, never concentrate on something. Like, if you can ever like stare at something and not stare at it, that's what you want to do when you're coming into the cage or these different things. Not be so hyper focused, because being so hyper focused in the beginning is burning a lot of that engine fuel that we need. Right. And I would say backstage, I like every single one of my fighters to get hit with gloves first. I like them to have almost a hard round of sparring. Uh, the body, like, so you see guys get chipped with the first jab or the first 1-2, and it's not like they're bad fighters or they're chinny fighters. It's just that the anxiety and the buildup and everything is coming. They're a little bit stiff. They haven't gotten comfortable, and they don't understand the range yet, right? So range is a huge thing when you're going into a fight. With adrenaline, with the lighting, with the way the adrenaline, what it's going to do to your feet, what it's going to do to your vision, what the lighting is going to do to your vision. I say, when you get into that cage, I want you to feel the ring. I want you to feel the cage. I want you to touch the cage, and I want you to move back from the cage. I want your brain to start making reads on how far away things are in this new mode we're in, because we're in adrenaline going mode, right? We're in fight mode now. And it's like, we need to calm down. We need to do some breath work, but we also need to figure out what cage feels like and what my range is and how I feel. And so I always like to kind of have a little scrap with my fighters backstage, because I feel like once they get hit a couple times, their body kind of understands that they're going to get hit some more. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like the knockdown with Renier de Ritter, right? In the second round, I think it was. And then Renier not having any issues after, right? Like, the brain kind of knows, like, hey man, we're going to get hit a bunch more. Like, let's protect ourselves as much as we can. But it's it's not it's not like a Diaz. The worst thing you could fight is a Diaz, because the Diaz is just going to have that concussive bump, 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 right? So the big ones, your brain kind of like starts to it's almost like preparing yourself for a car wreck. You know what I mean? Like, if you're too tense, it's too much, right? So, but if you've been hit a couple times and you're a little bit looser, now when you get hit, you kind of roll with it and you're used to that now, rather than being like this, like, oh shit. And when you're like that, they'd say that's the worst. They say that's why drunk people survive the most insane car crashes, because they're loose as hell anyways. Understanding where they are. And a lot of them tell me, like, oh man, I have anxiety. And I say, well, man, I understand that. My biggest anxiety was tripping going into the ring. That was my
Yeah,
biggest anxiety. And
yeah.
I would walk with my feet and hands up the cage, just so because I know that I'm moving very fast. You know what I mean? Like, my adrenaline's going. I like my adrenaline, because my adrenaline helps me a ton in the beginning. Like, it's never been a hindrance to me, except in the second, like when I lose it in my legs, like my legs feel like they're gone, right? But those that comes, yeah, that comes back. But that's why I also, if how I'm watching the fight sometimes, and seeing the fatigue of my fighter or the adrenaline dump, I won't let him sit down, because sometimes standing back up is the world's worst thing you can ever imagine. You're like, oh my god, this feels like death.
Feels like your
But
legs weigh 1,000 pounds. Yeah.
yeah, so I really, I want my fighters to understand that most of what they're going through is adrenaline, and also lighting can have a huge factor in playing uh, tricks with your vision and your mind. You know what I mean? So touch the cage, punch the cage wall, walk around, feel the floor, bounce. That's all going to be a feeling that you're going to feel during this fight. So get introduced to your surroundings first. Then, by the time the fight's happening, we're already kind of been been settled. If I There's a better word, we've already been kind of prepared for uh these outliers, right? Because if it was a fight in a gym, who knows who wins sometimes, right? Is You can't say that at the highest level. Sometimes you can, but, like, I don't think many people are going to ever beat Islam. I'm not saying he's never gonna be beat. But what I'm saying is that there's not many people in the UFC roster that are going to beat Islam, right? Is there a Dagestani guy out there that had terrible fights, but was a 10 times the wrestler and striker that he was, but he just couldn't put it together out in the cage? There's 1,000 of those guys. We all know him. We all know the guy who crushes the best guys in the gym, right? Like, there's a story about Arona and Laborio,
Yeah.
right? Where Laborio, he didn't know Laborio. Laborio was working at a bank. He came in. Arona's getting ready for the ADCC, and from all accounts, Laborio smokes him.
And
Like,
Laborio hadn't been training for like a year or something, so he just
yeah.
got the job with Bank of Brazil. Yeah.
Yes. So he's not training. He's not doing anything. He comes in, just destroys Arona's confidence to an extent. And that then afterward, he's getting ready for the ADCC. He wins the ADCC at his weight and at the absolute. I mean, Laborio, I think, also had one of those problems with, he did very well in competition, but I think he had like one MMA fight with somebody that Manoa man, maybe that was it, Manoa. I'm not sure who he fought, but I think it went to a draw or something like this. Just not his thing. You know what I mean? Like, but man, put Laborio in there with anybody else. I bet on Laborio in any closed door match. You know what I mean? Because of the stories that people say. I've felt him and been with him before, but he's older than me, and he still whoops, saying he still whoops my ass. But what I'm saying is that I believe the stories. I believe, and we also know the people that didn't, like, he lost to Salo, I think, in the ACC. I think that was a bit controversial. So anybody who's trains out of a Ribeiro gym, you guys can look that up and start commenting in the section, be like, that wasn't controversial. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Stir the pot. Stir the pot.
Yeah, getting some views, driving some algorithm. So Salo should have never won that fight, and Laborio should have gone on to win the championships. Right? So if you disagree, comment. I don't know. Say something.
Let me ask you this. There's obviously, like, it's interesting, the topic that you were on about people that do great in the academy, but then for some reason when they step out on a big stage, they have a hard time. And I've seen that a lot in jiu-jitsu too. I've seen it in MMA, yes, and I've also seen it in jiu-jitsu. What do you think that is, man? Do you think that some people just can't quite overcome being in front of people? I mean, what do you think that? What do you think it is ultimately?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can say that I did very well in training against some very good guys. I injured myself around the time I started getting some good confidence, because when you start beating better people, you get better confidence. But there's guys in the gym that were completely on the opposite end. There was guys that I thought, like, man, this guy's going to get smoked. He's in the UFC. He's fighting who? This dude's done. And then he goes to 3 rounds to a split decision. Maybe he wins or maybe he loses. But you're like, how the hell? I think maybe it's overthinking, right? And trying to choose the right thing rather than understanding that at high level or any level of tournament, the reaction to improvisation has to be immediate, right? So you can't think of 3 things and then try to choose the best one. Times like windows close like this. At white belt, it closes like this. Blue belt, it closes like that. Purple, brown, black. Like, it's fast, fast, fast. So maybe they just have a hang up in flowing, like going and trusting what their subconscious. So that's always what I like to say, is that your subconscious is working, right? Your brain is making decisions or picking up things as it sees it. He grabs my lapel. He's grabbing my, like, maybe he's going to play worm guard. Maybe he's going to put it between my legs. What's he doing with like, that's the front head. The back head should be dealing with, feeling the hook, killing the hook, pushing the hand down, moving into like undoing the guard as your other brain is going, I have to deal with this lapel thing, or, like, how am I going to deal with this lapel thing as I'm undoing everything else? And I think that sometimes people will just go, I got to deal with this lapel thing, and never deal with the other hooks or anything, and not letting their subconscious drive them through these different things. And possibly that's what it is. I mean, we could say it's nerves, we can say it's a lot of things, but it's a mental break, right? Because it's not a physical break. Their physicality is there. They prove it in the gym. They prove it everywhere else. Like, if they're exhausted, then it's a physical thing. If it's not a physical thing and it's just a blooper, and something that doesn't happen in the gym. It's got to be a mental break, and it has to happen because there wasn't a recognition of what to do next, the correct what to do next, right? And at high level black belt jiu-jitsu, that is insane. That's an insane amount of knowledge to have, and comfort to have, and trust to have. And I think you got guys like, if you watch the Rotolo brothers, I think, which is really fun to watch, is that a lot of their things, they go in with no plan, really. They go in as a counterpuncher. And I believe that that's kind of the best way to go about it if you don't have like a set game plan, because a lot of guys have, or at least at blue and purple, their set game plan is, I'm going to go into this Berimbolo. I'm going to try to get him into my system. The black belts too do this, but then you see guys like the Rotolo brothers where they step into whatever it is and they deal with it with counter punching and counter movements, and then find the hole that this guy just made, improvise that, and long step through it. Oh, boom, 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 mistake, long step, right? So I think that that's I think you can train that. I do. I think you can train improvisation, like I was saying, like, hey, clear, now live. Like, clear the hooks, then go. And then you'll have more opportunity, and the other person goes too. Like, he has no hooks. What's he going to do? He's going to reach. He's going to grab, and your counter punch has to be as quick because their window's closing. So you just got to get in before their window closes. And of course, on the opposite end of theirs, your window's closing, and they got to stop you from getting through the window just in time, right? So it's that. I think it's the improvisation. It's and that's why I really like watching the Rotolo brothers, because I see that they're going to walk into whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? And that is a fantastic fighter. Um, then, and not to say that guys like Gordon don't do this, but they have a system of things that they work through, like where they feel comfortable, and he's gotten so good at it that it's 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 beyond. I think the same thing could be said for Hodger Gracie, right? Where like Hodger Gracie could have the worst nerves in the world, but he's so disciplined, and he has so much of a high understanding of the mechanics and what he's doing, that he's never thrown into, oh shit, I have to improvise, right? So like, you're either going to be two different people. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm like, I love when I section off the world into two states of humans, right? Which is incorrect to do at all times. But you have the guy who improvises and moves through counterpunching, looking for holes. Then you have the guy that is so disciplined that they're not going to move forward until the next objective is secured. So the knee line is secured. This is secured. That's secured. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that I believe that's probably trained inside them so many times through a system of drilling, that they know this, and they know that that's what they're doing. Now, what happens when things go wrong for those guys? It's another story. But usually those guys are so good at positional stuff that it's not a big deal. Like, if Hodger wasn't so great positionally, and Gordon wasn't so great positionally, then you would have, you'd have a different story. Whereas you kind of saw Buchecha, who I like Buchecha. He's 5 times, 10 times, 100 times the jiu-jitsu person that I will ever be. But from a critical standpoint, Buchecha looks like he is moving past the positions, almost in a way that his opponents can't catch up to him. So, but he does lose position a lot. He does lose, like he'll go to 1, 2, 3, he'll lose position, he'll jump around and go to a new position. Just watch the Leandro Lowe Buchecha match, right? Because that's one of the most interesting matches you can watch, of two guys that kind of throw themselves into situations and see what the hell pans out, right? But I don't think Buchecha has the control of a guy like Hodger or Gordon. So that's why we saw, I think Gordon fought Buchecha in
Yeah.
ADCC, and beat him pretty squarely. I think that's why you see Gordon take out, because the positional control of that was so much greater than Buchecha trying to get momentum going and trying to get the scramble to happen, right? So it's like, and we'll find out. So you got the Bruchacha, the improviser, and you have the guy who's coined and has his systems in place, you know, and they'll improvise too. They're not dummies, but I think that you got two different guys, and if you don't fit into those sections, right, then you're going to have problems in competition. If you can't understand your system and move through controls and be able to find your submissions to where they normally end up, or force somebody into a position where it's repeatable, right? Like, hey, when I do this, I'm going to move him to this. When he does that, I have these three options. Whichever way he goes, I'm going to make that decision with my improvisation and look for a finish and or another control position and or another setup, right? Whereas the improvised guy is going, I'm looking for whatever's going to happen and for whatever mistake my opponent's going to make, right? So I'm not sure if I just invented two different human beings, but and then hey, so that's saying drilling ecological approach, almost, because the ecological approach is just figure shit out, and the other approach is, hey, know the position so damn well it doesn't matter who you go against.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to pick your brain on too, is like the idea, like a lot of people when they're going into a competition, they've done some research on who might be in their bracket, you know, especially for like super fights and things like that.
Yeah.
Like if there's a clear idea of who you're going to be competing against. I always wonder from a coach's perspective, whether or not you feel that that it's a good thing to be studying tape and studying your opponent's strengths, or if they should be focusing just more on their own. Is it better to be an improviser or someone that has a clear game plan against a specific
subjectively?
Yeah.
Right. So it's objective. So if somebody's very good at spider guard, right? Let's say you're facing Michael Langhi, and you know that if you win your first two, Michael Langhi's in your semi, right? You're like, okay, well, man, I'm going to work some spider guard defenses. I'm not going to overcommit to I'm not going to make this a how to beat Michael Langhi, but I'm going to be using so that my brain is clicking in on things, improvising things as he's putting hooks, as he's trying to pull me over top of him, as he's trying to get underneath me, as he's like going from lasso to where are the holes, and I'm got to build that into my reactionary stuff, as opposed to, hey, you're going to go against this leg lock guy, and that's when you get into the no-gi systems and stuff like that. You go, well, I have to really plan on not getting caught in these positions. And I have to look at, so if you were going to look at Mikey Musumeci, which is insane to look at and game plan for, right? Because of the way, but you say like, man, he starts with the calf slicer a lot, right? So he goes to the calf slicer, to the leg lock, to the back, and these different positions. It's like, I may have to identify how to escape these things. And that's different, like that's different because clearly Mikey's working on systems, right? He's working on one thing to another thing. That thing doesn't work. This this recycles to this recycles to this. And you're going to have to know how that system works in order to find where there's a hole in the system and a slip or skip through it. Like, you got to like fast forward, or like, what's it called? Like when you hit the little button forward and it goes 30 seconds forward, you got to get out of whatever's happening to you right now. You got to understand what he's looking for in order to not give it to him. Right. Because he's so far into the system that when you think you're defending it correctly, he's moving to a new catch point, right? A new systemized catch point in his system. And you got to know kind of what that is in order to, I think, stay clear and not wind up getting heel hooked or calf sliced or whatever thing he's going to do to you. So I would say if you're going into a tournament, mainly I like improvisation. A lot of guys I know study their opponents and still lose. It's not to say it's wrong, but sometimes you over assume that you're going to be able to deal with this, and you can't. And maybe the improvisation part was better because you're relying on a system to beat this guy that you're not fantastic at. You've trained it, you've worked it, but now you're saying, because when you plan for somebody, you're planning on beating their system with your defense system, and your defense system isn't at the level it should be to beat him there. So why are you trying to match him there with your defense system, then break off and go to another place altogether, right? Rather than going, well, shit, like I'm going to beat Michael Zenga with all my systems of spider guard passing. Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like good luck. This is going to be the worst spider guard day of your life. Rather than going, I'm going to work my spider guard stuff. I'm going to work my escapes, but I'm also going to work with the things I'm best at. And I'm going to try to break free, and I'm going to try to get a free sleeve so that I'm able to do work where doesn't have me puppeteered, you know? And I think building a bad system to beat a good system isn't great. Right. So I think working on certain things, understanding how they happen, having an answer for certain things is good to drill and work on, but building an entire system to beat somebody else's system that is their tried and true method is not as good, because that's their best in that, and you've put it together. I mean, maybe you're incredible. I can't say that, because also there's been fighters that we've coached into beating that fighter system with certain things, but jiu-jitsu is so close, right? So whereas to beat a fighter system that in striking is much easier, not as much easier, but you have space to move and create angles and exit. To be a fighter's system where he's grappling, there are so many X factors of like, oh, can I go to the heel hook and maybe he'll swing out of this? Can I whizzer hard and get back to my feet? Can I go scoot up the fence and turn out? Those are all the ways that you can beat good systems in MMA, but in jiu-jitsu, the good systems is because you're going to be in constant contact. So like when somebody like Lange grabs your sleeves, you're in the system, right? And the only time you're apart from that system is when one of those sleeves is no longer a grip, right? So you have to figure out how to undo that grip and get to an angle to where it's not spider guard anymore. But that's so hard to do against somebody that you have to make close contact with, right? Whereas in MMA, a lot of things are up for grabs more. So yeah. So guys that have really good systems are usually like, or that you can't run from are going to be very difficult to to strategize and be like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I would say like, hey man, he can't have two sleeves. If he has two sleeves, we're done. If he has a collar sleeve, then at least we can get inside on the hips and we can start to force our way inside a little bit. And he's going to play that one hook lasso, and we're going to work off of that and try to pressure pass our way through. Maybe we can do this, but saying, okay, you're going to beat the system with you're going to beat the system with the defenses that he deals with every single day of his career,
all the things he's worked to overcome. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It seems to me like if I was going to do a super fight, it would make more sense to study the other person and then kind of figure out, okay, where can I apply my game? Where does my game fit into this? If you're in a bracket full of people, to me, man, that just seems almost like it'd be overwhelming to try to remember, okay, after fight one, first fight is this guy and he does these things. So here's what I'm going to do. Then fight two, it's this guy who does these things. It's like, man, I don't think it's realistic to think that you're going to retain that all, especially after you've gone through some fights and been and gotten more tired as the tournament progresses. It seems to me like it'd be better to just have your A game that you really rely on. Maybe have like one note on each guy. So, okay, this guy's a good leg locker. Yeah. Be aware, make sure I keep my legs in good places, make sure I use my systems that I already know to escape and defend. But anything beyond that, it just seems like it would be hard to even.
I think that's probably I think going in there, like the best competitors that we're going to have and the best people that we're going to see with answers are the improvisers. So we watch, we watch Leandro Lowe. I don't think Leandro Lowe is going to fight different against anybody at any weight class ever. He's got a game that translates against most opponents, and he's constantly dealing with, if that opponent's good at something, he's constantly making sure the grips aren't there for that opponent to be 60-40, right? So in the same breath, jiu-jitsu is 60-40 as well. 50-50, 60-40, right? If you're in a guard with Michael Zenga, you're 60-40 to start with, right? That's it. You're 60-40 to start with because you're in one of the most incredible spider guard players guards ever. If you can get it to 50-50, you're doing well, but you got to get it to 60-40 in order to put him in any kind of defensive danger. And then he's running on defense, and then you're trying to take more property on offense. Right. So I would say like Leandro, watching guys like Leandro Lowe, sometimes watching guys that have very good technique, have very good passing, have their stuff that they do, but also have the ability to just make it work when it should work. And if it doesn't work, they're just going to scramble and do something new. I loved watching the Ruotolo brothers when they went and fought the finals against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah,
that's probably one of the best matches I've seen. And you see two guys that train with each other all the time, and they're both improvising the entire time. No, not one of them is going like, well, my brother's bad at this side, so I'm going to go here. These guys are just going back and forth, scrapping until one makes a mistake and the other one can get something else. But then you got Levi Jones, who is, so what do you do? Like there's no right answer. Jiu-jitsu is complex. I just read this off to my friend who was having an issue, and I was like, it contains multitudes. Do I contradict myself? The Walt Whitman says, do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contain multitudes, meaning you can contradict yourself. You can do these. It doesn't matter because jiu-jitsu just is so layered. Martial arts is so layered that there is no like, well, this is how it works. Well, yeah, if I'm Ruotolo, then it works against it. Well, there's Levi Jones. Does that not work against everybody else too? Those guys had a really, really close match. I would love to see them go again. I feel like that would have the new CGI. I wish it wasn't teams, and I wish it was some of these guys. But I guess everybody's now signed either with one or they're signed with UFC now. So we're going to be seeing less fights. I don't know what we're going to see.
It's going to be interesting, but yeah, I wish Cade and Levi could run it back again because that was a very, very interesting match. Yeah.
I mean, that's improvisation, counter punching, and forcing situations versus systems. Absolutely. It's an interesting match.
Malcolm, let me ask you this, man. Now that you're shifting gears back towards MMA guys again, what are your thoughts on hard sparring for MMA? At the professional level, do you think that's something guys should be doing often? What are your thoughts on hard sparring?
I think hard sparring happens, and when it does happen, you have to look at what damage is this going to do at all. Like, okay, what is this? Is this going to be a problem with the team? Like that's number one, right? Like, can both guys take this without being bitter about it? If somebody knocks somebody else out or whatever. But it has to be done at some points. You like, and I told one of my fighters this, that I didn't coach him for one of his fights, and I saw him get hit, and I said, man, you haven't been sparring. Like, because a lot of these guys, they don't want to spar. They don't want to go hard. They don't want to spar, and they know that if they go into a big room, some guys are going to go hard, and that's pretty much what you got to deal with. Sometimes you got to deal with it. Like, this guy's going to try to hurt me a little bit, so I got to make sure that I don't necessarily want to make this a slugfest, but I definitely got to make him respect me, not to slug on me, right? And he got hit in one of the fights, and I said, that's the hardest you've been hit in the past 4 months. I can tell because you haven't been sparring and you didn't put in some hard sparring. Like, you didn't put in the sparring where, like, when you get hit, like, okay, that happened. That was hard. I got to clean the cobwebs and move. You looked like you were deer in headlights after it happened. Not a great situation to be in, but that's because you lacked sparring. Does it have to always be hard? No, I think you can land. So I was talking to somebody about this, one of the people in my gym, and I was saying the difference between landing a strong kinetic punch, right? Like it just being the structures there, the tip turns there, and and landing that's not a bad thing. He's like, well, I feel like I need to swing. I need to go hard because that's how I train, or that's how I do well. Or I'm like, if you can't do well technically, like if you can't put your punches land, there's something wrong with your technique, right? Um, yeah, you do want to hit him in the body enough that he's going to defend that, because you're setting things up as you go along in a fight. You're poking around, looking for holes, looking for patterns, looking for things that these guys are doing in a system, or it's just their normal, human being, like 1, 2, they move their hair. Well, okay, now when they get hit, it's like they do this little turn. You're like, okay, well, they're moving to the left. They're always blocking with the right arm. I'm seeing that he's also dropping his arm a lot. So I'm going to go maybe there a little bit more, but I'm going to try to go up high. And I say, if you throw a head kick and it's a good technical head kick and you knock somebody out, that's okay. That happened. Don't try to wing his head off, because good technical sparring can be hard sparring too, right? So like there's been times where, man, I dipped when I should have ducked, and I dipped right into a shin, or we're still wearing shin pads. So I ducked into a shin pad. That thing dropped me. You know what I mean? Like, or it didn't drop me and it rocked me hard enough to go like, that was bad. I need to have that understanding that those things are bad, and I should have, and I'm paying a dear price, and I need to learn how to fight back from that, right? How to get my win back, how to get my confidence back, how to start what I should be doing, pushing my jab. Should I be rotating? What way am I going to heal myself so that I'm back into the fight? And I say, well, man, if you're having to throw these fast, hard punches, I said, and there's no structure there, then it's garbage, right? If you should be able to set things up and slip and throw a structured punch, and that shit should hurt, right? Like if you get hit with a structured punch, that thing hurts. If you get hit with a hard right because the guy's swinging and it hurts, yeah, but it's less likely to happen often against somebody who knows what they're doing, right? So I think hard sparring should take place. I think people need to trust one another and be okay with losing. And I talked with my friend in Sweden about this often, which is, what happens when you're the champion, right? You're the world champion and you come in and there's a danger of everybody looking to crush you, because that makes them the champion in the gym in their own head, right? Or are you being protected so much that you aren't getting the sparring that you should be getting, because everybody wants to make sure that you still feel like you're the best in the world? And the coaches don't want to piss you off, and the people you're sparring with don't want to piss you off, because they want help. So if I'm working with the number one fighter in the world, I don't want to piss him off and not be a good partner for him, because he can help me. He can help me get into the big leagues. He can help me, like he can work with me more. Like I want to be a part of this team. But if a coach isn't monitoring the relationship and saying like, hey man, you're taking it way too easy on our guy. Like this is not what's going to happen. Like I need you to try to win. Like I don't need you to try to have him win by a slight edge. Like, okay, good. And I'm gonna let him keep winning the fight by a slight edge because he's the champ. And I also don't want to push it too hard. There's an issue with that. And that does happen. And sometimes you think, well, like what happened to that champion? What happened here is you see him sparring with these guys, or you see him traveling a bunch and moving around. And you're like, well, is this the right choice for him? Like he's working with certain guys that want to get paid. Like we all want to get paid. We all want to move up in status. Sparring with the world champion moves you up in status. Sparring with him one time doesn't. Sparring with him 10 to 20 times does. So the coach has to have a real kind of overlook on it and be like, hey, today we're going to go easy. I don't need you to win the fight. I need you to put pressure on him. I need to be able to instruct my guy and move him around you. I need to be able to deal with you. Like, I don't need you trying to win every moment here. I want specific things from my guy. And then there's going to be times where like I look at the sparring partner and I got to say, hey, we got to put pressure on him. I want him to feel the pressure today. I want him to know that if he keeps putting his hand down He keeps dropping his shoulder, and he's got this little cocky sway about him. I want to know that if he gets hit, we can lose this title. So it's kind of like a management standpoint of how much can your champion take, or how much can your fighter that's going into a big fight take to where his confidence is high, but he's been tested hard enough that you're going to win the fight. And most champions understand losing in the gym is not losing anywhere else. Like, my, I, wouldn't life be nice if my sparring was my record? I had some fucking great sparring, man. I had some good time, man, but that's just not it. It's not the way it is. So you have to develop the team in a correct manner, and you have to protect your champion against certain people that don't don't care about him keeping the belt. Like you go, well, they only want to win. They want to win because that's the most important thing to them, is to win against a champion. A funny thing happened a long time ago was when I was with Evan Tanner, and nobody was really sparring with him. I know why. I mean, if you see the curvature of my nose, that's a little bit of Evan.
Little hint there,
yeah. He and when I went with him, I kicked the shit out of his legs. I was nervous. I was also 21 years old. And he was the fresh champion. And I was like, no, he was fighting Phil Baroni. So I go in and I inside leg kick, then I outside leg kick, then I do like a jumping inside leg kick, outside leg kick, hard. I see him like shimmy his shoulders and just fucking throw a two so hard that he flattened my nose to the side, But what happened was because I was a little bit overexcited. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like hey, I'm sparring with a guy who's so like a legend in the sport, and I don't want it to be a bad sparring for him. So I want to give him, for him to respect me and for him to want to train with me more. And I think the only reason why I continued to train with him and became good friends was because I showed up the next day with my nose more in the middle than it was before, but ready to spar and ready to do things. And he told me, he's like, well, I had to do something. You were kicking the shit out of my legs. Yeah. Fair point. You know what I mean?
Gave you a receipt. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have to learn how to do those kind of things. I've brought UFC fighters into my academy, where my academy's smaller, and these guys are trying to like win this sparring match. And I'm like, there's no, why are you trying to do, like, you're over trying right now. And then the guy who's over trying gets fucking dropped, knocked out or something. And it's like, dude, that's what happens, dude. He's going easy. He's doing his particular thing for himself right now. He's not there for you to try to get your jump. You know what I mean? Like, where you can tell everybody, because a lot of times that happens in gyms where you tell everybody, hey, I fucking destroyed so-and-so. I've never talked about a sparring match ever. No matter how big the name, no matter how good the fight, no matter how good the sparring session was for me, I've never in my life spoken about sparring, because it doesn't matter. It's not real. You know what I mean? It's real, but it's not real. Whoever's doing whatever out there on a main stage, that's real. Yes. Whatever I'm doing there, I can say I was a good partner. I can say I had good moments. I can say I trained with some of the best, but I can't ever say, well, this guy, I creamed this guy, because I don't know what he did the day before. I don't know if he just got done from an extreme strength and conditioning, like where he's just, or he's getting ready for 3 weeks and he's cutting weight. None of the things I'm doing. So how am I going to carry that into conversation? And I kind of dislike that anytime I hear people talk, about training. And that's a little bit less and less, but you start to see stuff like, remember when TJ Dillashaw and I think Cody Garbrandt, they had their little squabble, and they showed
alpha male thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit different. If you leave the team and you start talking shit and we got tape of you getting knocked out, maybe we show it.
Yeah. Like, generally speaking though, if I'm in a gym somewhere and I hear someone telling me or telling someone else about what they did against someone else, to me that it's just a dead giveaway that you're not an experienced practitioner.
That happened where I was around here. It was like, somebody did somebody did a seminar and they just had neck surgery maybe like 7 months ago. But then everybody was talking about how so and so black belt creamed him. And it's like, dude, you haven't reached the levels of this guy, not even close. He had neck surgery. I wouldn't even roll with you. Screw you.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like you want to go hard, you want to win a championship off of my name in a off a seminar? No. No thanks, bro.
It is ridiculous. It really is the mark of someone that's just inexperienced and doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground.
Right.
Like, it's like you said, you don't know what the training regimen was. Like, for example, you roll with someone in the evening. For all you know, they did a competition class and taught some privates before that. They're tired. At the end of the day, they're just trying to be loose and kind of finish off their day. And you're, considering it like a win of some kind. It's not a good look.
I mean, it's been hard for me because I've come back from so many different injuries, and I've had times where I was able to spar or roll and do certain things. But like, man, one thing happens after another thing. My body's like right now I have a torn groin, torn pec, but like I'm not going to bring if I'm going to teach somewhere, I'm not going to bring that up. That's and and generally if somebody's like, oh, can we work together? I'm like, no, man, I'm teaching today. Like me today, I'm teaching. Like I got other things going on in my life that I don't need that I don't need to rough it up with you because I gotta go back. What I really like to do is go back to my academy and work with my fighters when I'm healthy, rather than wasting my where I'm injure myself further and then prolong the period of time that I can't work with my fighters. And I can't actually roll with them and give them what they deserve too, because these are my guys. You're a guy. You know what I mean? And like I have to make sure that my attention is dispersed to where the people that invest in me, are going to get them are going to get me when I'm healthy, are going to get me when I'm feeling good, are going to get me because they've stuck by me when I haven't been feeling good, and they've dealt with those kind of situations where I wasn't able to work with them, where I wasn't able to show things, or I wasn't able to go live, so
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest thing coaching has taught you about yourself?
That I could have been better. I could have been better than I was when I was if I had I hate to say this, if I had a coach like me coaching me, things would have been really good. And I don't think a lot of people realize like there's a hard level of coach like and I'll just say it, like I feel like I'm a damn good coach in BJJ. I feel like I'm a damn good coach in MMA. I feel like I can compete with any of the top coaches if if it's MMA 1000%, if it's jiu-jitsu, depending on the jiu-jitsu format or how much I commit myself to it. But like growing up and coming through the ranks and coming through the different things, I didn't have a lot of coaching. I didn't have a lot of oversight. I didn't have guys showing me things over and over and over again to build my talent. I didn't have I mean, right now and on the internet, like I look at plenty of guys coaching online and they're good. They are really good. It's not to say like I'm an outlier. There are good coaches around. There weren't that many good coaches around a while back. There just weren't, or they didn't care enough, so it was like a position. It was like, well, I feel like I also feel competition with other coaches to a degree, like, not necessarily do I feel competition that like like if we're going to face one another. I feel a competition, and I always had this in my soul, I think, is I don't want anybody to know more than I do. And when I feel like somebody does, I want to make sure that I know that I get back to where I should be. So if I have that fear or that little feeling, that tingling feeling that this guy's good and he's understanding things, I said, I gotta up my game. I think it's the same thing with a competitive outlook of anywhere, of fighting, of jujitsu, of anything. It's like, man, this guy's good. He's brilliant. I can be better than him. I have fallen off the wagon on my study, and you have to constantly study. You can't just be like, well, I know this, this, and this, and that's what you're going to stick to. No, man, I have a coach, my friend in Sweden, that constantly challenges me to be better because he's watching fights like crazy. And for a long time, I wasn't watching fights because I wasn't coaching MMA to that extent. Right. I was just like, well, I'll watch whatever fights I want to watch later. Now I'm watching everything from the prelims and up, because I know that me working with higher level guys, me working with with top guys, I'm going to have the answers, and I'm going to have the understanding that, and whether or not it feels like work or doesn't feel like it feels like work. Just so everybody, at this point in my life, it feels like work. But I'm constantly studying, and I know that being a coach is just like a fighter. It's temporary, your status, right? So if you get locked in time over here, and you're like, well, this is how much I learned, and everybody else is usually over here, but these 30 other people are here. I don't want to be that guy here. I want to be that guy right along those 30 other people. And so there's a big jump in motivation, I would say, as from being a coach, of what I've learned. It's the same thing as of everything else in life that I've ever gone after, which is I want to be better. And I don't know why I want to be better. It just is.
Malachy, in closing, what are some of your major goals for 2025? What are some things you hope to accomplish by the end of the year?
I'm hoping to work with more MMA fighters. I hope to work with my guys, get my guy lost a title fight because he just didn't do the things he should have done at the right time. I'd like to get him his title back. And then I want to work with as many good fighters as I can possibly work with. So that means going to other countries. It means going to Sweden, means going to San Diego, means going to Vegas. I want to get back into the heap of things. I'm hoping to expand my horizons and take the things that I take, that like my body mechanics, things maybe that are new variations and adaptions. I want to put them to the test against some of the best guys, and I want to work with some of the best coaches wherever those guys are. I'm in the position now where I want to coach other coaches and teach them how to be better. Right. So that's a new goal of mine. It's like, hey, I want to help other coaches, but I also want to learn from each coach that whether they're 10 times better than me, whether they're whatever thing that they think that they're brilliant at, I want to know. Whatever thing they think that they understand well, I want to hear from them and I want to learn from them. So no matter where they are in the coaching rank of never coached this or low level coach, I want to know what they think that they're like, hey, what's your most brilliant part of your game that you feel like you teach differently than everybody else? And I want to learn from them. The same thing, I want to do the same thing with the fighters. Is I want to know, what positions do you do? How can I improve your positions? Right? How can I make that last longer? So that's where I'm at with my 2025 end goal. I mean, I feel like it's almost 2026, but by 2026, I want to be working with a good stable of fighters. I want to be working with some brilliant people. I want to be coaching at my academy and making those guys top level. But I just want to be, I have like a new lease on life, and I really, really want, and I used to think I was like done, like 40's done. Right. And this is just who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And then I kind of have this like resurgence where it's like, wait, I still have more to learn. I still have more to give. And I still want to I still want to compete at the highest level, maybe not in the cage, but from outside the cage. So.
Well, folks, unfortunately, we're fresh out of time. Malachy, it's always a pleasure to get to pick your brain, man. I appreciate you being here for the 5th time. We will get some kind of commemorative piece of merchandise for you. I'm determined. Yes. I'm going to talk to Bernardo and Michael about it. We'll see what we can do. It. But I would love to have you on for a 6th time in the future. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much, brother.
Of course. For anyone out there that wants to keep up with Malachy, it's real easy to do so. He's active on all social media. His Instagram is Malachy Friedman. Great place to watch daily clips and content. So make sure you're following him on Instagram. His YouTube channel is also great. Malachy Friedman BJJ. Make sure you guys subscribe and hit the little bell icon to get notified when he adds new content. His website is madlabbjj.com. That's a great place to keep up with everything he's got going on. He's, like we said, he's traveling all over the place now. So if you drop into his school in South Carolina, that's great. If you catch him while he's on the road, if you catch him in Sweden, If you're able to figure out where he's at and get some time with him, I really do recommend it. If you can't catch up with him in person, though, you can learn from him anywhere in the world here at bjjfanatics.com. He's got 2 new instructionals out. One's called Low Hanging Fruit, and then the other one is his Guard 2.0. If you guys haven't seen his first Guard instructional, you're really missing out. Check this one out, though, because it's even more, it's an expansion of his original best-selling instructional that we have on the site. So be sure to check that out at bjjfanatics.com. And that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please stay tuned for the next episode of the BJJ Fanatics podcast.